Hello, whisperers. Welcome to the channel. If you enjoy tonight's tale, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. It helps more than you know. Now, dim the lights, and let's begin tonight's story. If I tell you I wasn't scared, I'm lying. I just knew where to put it. We came in low on a black RHIB, engine barely a breath, bow punching through the chop like a heartbeat. Night water tasted like batteries through the balaclava. NVGs washed the world green. Holt cut the throttle with 2 fingers. No words. We didn't need them. I checked my gear by touch. MK-18 can on, IR laser taped, mag staged, plate carrier dug into the same bruise as always. Keep it simple, keep it quiet. I glanced left. Torres tapped his med pouch, then me, then the sky. I've got you, and God if he's on shift. Ibarra rolled his shoulders once, breechers packed tight against his spine. Sachs had the long gun collapsed, calm as a Sunday pew. Holt gave the move signal, and we slid off into knee-deep surf. The city crouched above us, low blocks, salt-stained stucco, broken antennas. No moon. The air stank like diesel and bad meat. A dog barked just once, then the sound cut mid-yelp like a wire bit it. We climbed the seawall, passed under laundry lines twitching in wind that didn't exist, and hugged shadow. Our target was 4 streets in, safe house with a cracked blue door, 2nd-story balcony, shutters blown to hell. The HVT was supposed to be there. He had a name that belonged in headlines and a list of sins that didn't. We'd practiced this block 100 times on plywood. Muscle memory is a religion when bullets start talking. Crossing the first alley, my boot slid on something slick. I thought oil. I looked down. Not oil. Blood goes black under NVGs, thick and sticky, pooled into river shapes and clotted at the edges. You don't forget the way it grabs rubber. You don't forget the smell either. Sweet and wrong, like fruit left in a car in July. Flies? No. Different hum. A low electrical whine. Fridge compressor. TV static. Something alive trying to be a house. Holt lifted his fist. Freeze. He pointed at the blue door. Splinters gnawed in from the jam. The lock had been hit hard. Not clean. More chewed than broken. He gave Ibarra the nod. Ibarra went to his pouch, stopped, shook his head. No charge. Door was already done. He put his ear to it, mouth set hard. Holt looked at me. Fingers counted. 1, 2, 3. We flooded in. The stink hit like a slap. Copper and sewage and bleach that failed remedial classes. My light stayed off. Laser off the high port. Slicing arcs as our rifles read the room. Corners first, midline second, ceiling last. Living room. Couch on its back. Cushions ripped like throats. Kitchen. Fridge open. Milk gone violent. Hallway left. Closed door. Dark at the bottom, like something's breath. Clear, I whispered. Clear, clear. Sachs stopped at the bathroom. Movement. He didn't say it loud. He said it like you tell a friend there's a spider on their shoulder and you don't want them to flinch. On the tiles, a man lay half in, half out of the tub, shirt gone, ribs like fence posts. His chest moved, not like breathing, more like a fish on a dock, sucking at a world that didn't have water. His eyes found us. They didn't see us. Pupils blown, white ring around the edge like frost. Friendly? Torres asked. Because he has to. The man's jaw worked, slow, then sideways. His lip tore because it was already torn. Teeth clicked. No words. His tongue looked wrong. Swollen, black at the tip. Don't, Holt said, and I knew he meant don't step closer. The man came up fast. You know how a deer jumps when it smells you? All flinch and explode? That's what it was. 1 second floor, next second our space, hands clawing, nails long and gray, teeth chattering the way dice sound when they scatter. He moved like his joints didn't have limits. Torres slipped left. I went right. Ibarra met him in the door with the blade. There's a sound steel makes when it hits the side of a skull, like a thick stick on wet clay. The man kept coming. Ibarra adjusted, short, ugly stab up into the soft of the temple. The body shivered and stuttered and dropped like the strings got cut. Blood didn't pour. It smeared and bubbled. Torres swallowed. That wasn't normal. No, I said. Head. It took head. Holt didn't lecture. He just moved. We flowed with him. Down the hall, the bedroom door looked like someone had been trying to punch their way out with their face. Blood and teeth embedded in wood, grit caught in spatters that had dried in ridges. Inside, a cot, restraint sliced, a duffel full of cash that meant nothing now, and a girl's scarf tied around the lamp. The window was gone. Glass out, not in. Sachs took balcony. Streets quiet, he said. Too quiet. Then something started knocking below us. Steady, flesh on wood. Knock, 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 knock. Not fists, heads. I peeked over the railing. An alley ran between our building and the next. In NVG green figures pressed into the narrow like toothpaste. Shoulders turned. Bodies bending wrong to squeeze past one another face to face and not caring. Their hands pattered against the walls, and the sound made my stomach go tight. Some had arms that didn't bend anymore and dragged them like rope. Some had holes in them that should have ended anything human. They weren't running. They were collecting, like rain gathering at the bottom of a hill. One looked up. Eyes were just gone. Not popped, not punctured. Gone. Like someone scooped them out and packed the sockets with ash. He opened his mouth. The sound started as air moving through pipe. Then it caught on something in his throat and turned into a long, wet horn. Others joined. It made the alley feel smaller. It made the hair inside my ears itch. There's your too quiet, I said. Back inside, Holt said. We're not burning on a balcony. We pulled to the stairwell. I took rear. You always think stairs will save you. You can own a stairwell if you have ammo and discipline. That's what we tell ourselves. At the first landing, something hit the door from the other side. Then a second something. Then a third, like the beat of a song getting written. The wood bowed. Paint dust fell off like dandruff. Holt looked at Ibarra. Ibarra shrugged, pleased and unhappy at the same time. They're coming up, he said, and set a charge. Quiet? Holt asked. Not tonight. He slapped the flex to the hinge line, tucked his thumb, and we leaned away. The crack popped like a thunder picture. Door became fluttering birds. Heat kissed our cheeks. They poured through flame. The first one had most of a face. The second one had most of a shoulder. The third had all of his teeth and none of the skin that introduces a person. You think you'll be brave and sad the first time you shoot something that looks like a person. I wasn't. I was efficient, because when the front rank came, the back rank pushed them harder, and the ones behind that put their heads down and plowed, and their bodies packed into a wedge that wanted my throat. My rifle started talking in rhythmic little coughs, each cough a green spark of IR feedback on a forehead, or an eye socket, or a mouth held open too wide. Bones cracked like sticks, skulls took hits like eggs, the cans spit heat against my wrist, and everything smelled like hot pennies and burned hair. Torres kept his cadence next to me, 2 to the head, 2 to the head, 2 to the head, and Sax's long rifle boomed once, twice from down the hall. Heavy subsonic punches that turned faces into red fog. One got too close. I saw my own reflection in his empty eyes before they weren't there anymore. Ibarra stepped through me and put the knife in up to the hilt. He didn't grunt. His breath actually slowed when he worked, like he wanted his heart quiet enough to hear the blade finish. Down, Holt said. Down, down, down. We collapsed 2 floors, boots slapping steps, hands finding rails we didn't remember being there. On the first floor, the front door, blue twin to the one upstairs, hung off one hinge. Someone had tried to close it with furniture. Chairs were smashed throat first under the knob. A dresser bled splinters. The street beyond was a smear of shadows, smoldering trash, and shapes moving with purpose that didn't look like human purpose. LZ Bravo, Holt said into the mic. 2 minutes to move. Need confirmation. Static answered. No hiss, no scratch of human. Just the electrical cough of a world that had lost the knack of talking. Okay. We play the plan. That's what we do. Don't think about the dog. Don't think about the fridge. Don't think about how the tongue looked. We pushed into the street. If the alley was a tube, the street was a mouth. The city opened wide, and we were the thing on its tongue. Windows throbbed with silhouettes slapping glass. Doors bulged inward where bodies leaned, like the whole neighborhood was tilting toward us. A man stumbled out in front of us, hands held up, eyes wet with the wrong kind of shine. He had the HVT's haircut. He had 3 gold rings. He also had half a forearm and didn't seem to notice. HVT dash, I started. He rushed. Holt shouldered past me and put a 3-round arc from sternum to chin. The man kept coming, jaws sagging, a surprised sound stuck in his throat. Holt blinked, what the hell, and adjusted, 1 through the eye. The world took a breath and let the man fold into himself gently, like it was tired of holding him up. Head, Holt said to all of us. To himself, most of all. We moved. At the corner, the street broke into a T, and the left side boiled. Bodies bumped into each other and sloughed around parked cars. Some crawled over hoods, belly skin slapping metal. Some moved like they were remembering stairs. Their fingers scrabbled on paint and left dark strings behind. Grenade, Ibarra said. He didn't ask. He pulled, counted too fast, and threw hard, low, so it kissed asphalt and skipped under the front bumper of a microbus stuffed with things that used to be people. The pop was small, and the effect was large. The bus lifted a whisper and came down at a new angle. Windows belched red confetti. Things flew. Parts, really, not things. A jaw spun. An arm flicked. Hand opened hand. Closed like it couldn't decide. The shockwave punched my plate like a buddy sparring too excitedly. We cut right, past the wreckage. Breathing got louder in my ears until I realized it wasn't mine. The sound came from everywhere at once, like every pipe in the block had decided to breathe on us. The more we moved, the more the city exhaled. Holt pointed us into a storefront. Metal grill ripped up like a smile, sandals on hooks, bright posters with happy families who did not exist tonight. We slid behind the register and through to the back, then out the supply door, into an alley that glistened with the same black sheen as before. Someone had tried to wash it and given up. A hose lay curled like a dead snake. Sax took a knee. Scope up on the next intersection. 24 at least, he said. Maybe more. Double that, Torres breathed. He was right. They kept coming, and when we put them down, more arrived, stepping on bodies like cobblestones. The pile changed the shape of the street. When we moved, they moved faster. When we were still, they sniffed the air, turned, and listened. To our hearts, to the tiny gasps of suppressors, to the mechanical clink of bolts cycling. I don't know, and I hate that I don't. We shot until the discipline of it became a comfort and a prison. Cadence, mag change, check, breathe, sight picture, press, press, press. When one dropped without a head hit, just severed spine or lucky angle, it sent a stupid little flare of hope up my throat that I stomped back down. Don't learn the wrong lesson. Don't get cute. A siren kicked on somewhere and then died mid-wail like it remembered being a voice and didn't want to try. Bravo's 3 blocks, Holt said. Move. We moved, bouncing from shadow to shadow, leapfrogging. One covers while one runs, stairs and doorways and over cars whose alarms were trying to be brave. We passed a grocery where the front half of a person lay like a rug. I stepped on their hand. It clenched. I didn't apologize. I don't know why I feel bad about that now, but I do. On the last block, before the sea, the wind picked up. It smelled cleaner, and the clean made the rot worse by contrast. The seawall flashes silver under the nods when waves break. We were almost there. I could hear the ocean pretend it was still bigger than the city. Talk, say again, Holt tried. Any bird, this is static, and under it, like something trying to talk through sand. Negative, inbound, hold your. Say again, Holt snapped. Something screamed, close and high. Not a person. I've heard people die. We all have. This was something else. A metal-on-metal shriek with breath. It came from the rooftops like the city had grown nails and was dragging them across the sky. We broke into the open. The seawall loomed, stairs down to a narrow strip of rock and trash with the tide worrying it. Our LZ was a rectangle of painted concrete with a faded helicopter silhouette. Cute, like a floor decal telling you where to stand when you want your groceries. No bird, Sax said. It wasn't a question. No bird, Holt said. Eyes doing that math only leaders get stuck with. He set his jaw back into the hinge. We hold and signal. I looked up. because the scream had rattled the screws in my skull, and I saw the rooftops moving. It took my brain a second to understand. My lizard brain knew first and tried to pull me backward by the spine. The roofs weren't moving. The people on them were. They were crawling over each other to get closer to the edge, shoulders wedged to shoulder, hands peeled and reaching, bodies tipping like wheat in wind. One went over, then two, then 10. They fell like sacks. Some broke, most didn't. They got up in concert, jerky marionettes finding their strings again. Then the street behind us filled, not with a crowd, but with pressure. Holt raised the IR strobe and clipped it to the corner of the seawall out of habit, like a man straightening a picture on a burning wall. The strobe blinked its polite hello to a sky that wouldn't answer. "Positions," he said. "We took them because that's what you do, because that's who we are when we're lucky." And then I heard it, under the breathing, under the groaning and chittering, and the ocean pretending to be bigger than all this, a sound like wet rope being dragged across concrete, multiplied by 1,000, amplified by the hollow of the streets. It came from everywhere at once and from one direction in particular. I glanced at Torres. His eyes were wide under the tubes. He mouthed, "You hear that?" "Yeah," I said, and my voice didn't sound like mine. The city inhaled. And then it came. The city didn't breathe, it howled. It started in the alleys, then the rooftops, then the streets. Groans, shrieks, the grinding of bone and tendon, as thousands of throats found the same song. The air itself shook with it. We didn't wait for orders. You don't wait when the dark starts moving like surf. "Contact front," Holt barked, voice flat, calm. They came around the corner like water breaking a dam, dozens then hundreds. Shoulders slamming into shoulders, arms clawing the air, mouths split open so wide their jaws looked dislocated. Their eyes didn't shine in NVGs. They were just pits, bottomless, hungry. I went full auto for 2 breaths. Heads cracked, snapped back, fountains of meat spraying the ones behind them. They didn't fall. They became obstacles the rest crushed down. The street narrowed to a funnel of bodies pressing forward. Sachs was already prone on a burned-out car, suppressor hissing like an angry snake. Each shot dropped a skull into red fog. He didn't shout, didn't curse, just pressed, cycled, pressed again. Rhythm, perfect and cold. Frag out. Ibarra lobbed one low. The grenade skipped once, twice, then vanished under the crowd. A second later, the street became light. Bodies tore open like paper bags, limbs pinwheeled. The ones still standing staggered forward with holes in them big enough to see daylight through. Some crawled on without legs, clawing with blackened fingers. They didn't stop. "Shift right," Holt cut us across the intersection, rifles strobing with muzzle flash. My shoulder ached from recoil, but the sight picture was clean, one skull after another popping like watermelons under a bat. Blood sprayed high, hot, misting my face. Civilians stumbled into view, screaming, arms waving. A family of 4 ran from the smoke, father dragging a child, mother screaming behind him. The mob was faster. Torres dropped his rifle, scooped the girl up under one arm, and put his Glock into 2 faces without breaking stride. Holt grabbed the mother, shoving her behind us. The father tripped. They were on him in an instant, teeth sinking into his cheek. tearing chunks out, his screams cut short as the mob swallowed him whole. We pulled the survivors through a doorway and slammed it shut, shoving racks of dusty linens against it. The wood groaned as fists and skulls hammered from the other side. Inside smelled of mildew and rot. Shelves knocked over, ceiling fans drooping from bent rods. "They're not stopping," Torres panted, setting the girl down. She didn't cry, just stared at us like she'd already used up her tears. "They don't stop," I said, voice tight. The pounding built. Boards splintered, nails squealed. "Rear exit," Holt ordered. We moved, past shelves, past overturned tables, through a back hallway dripping with pipe sweat. The door at the end was chained shut, padlock rusted but intact. Ibarra grinned, pulled his breacher bar, and split the lock in one strike. We shoved through into another alley and froze. It was worse. The alley stretched long and narrow, clogged with bodies stacked chest to back. They were waiting. Some pressed their heads to walls, gnawing plaster. Some tore at their own arms like they weren't sure whose flesh was whose. Their mouths worked silently, lips peeled back, teeth broken and red. When the door slammed behind us, they all turned at once. "Line," Holt snapped. We formed tight, rifles up, barrels barely 2 feet from the first wave. They came fast, clawing the air, slipping on their own blood. My rounds tore faces into halves, blew jaws into chunks, splashed gore on my visor. Bone shards rattled like gravel across my plate carrier. Torres went to his knife when his rifle jammed, plunging it through an eye socket, yanking it free with a spray of brain matter. "Grenade, grenade, grenade," Ibarra's voice. He hurled another frag, the blast shredding the alley walls with shrapnel, painting them black and red. Still they came, still they climbed over the piles of their own. We fought backward, one step at a time, casings bouncing, smoke curling, blood running under our boots like shallow water. By the time we reached the end of the alley, the street ahead wasn't better. It was worse. A boulevard, wide open, with thousands. Every window screamed with faces. Every rooftop swarmed. They poured like ants from doorways, stairwells, subway grates, an ocean of flesh, all of it turning toward us. "Jesus Christ," Torres muttered. "It's the whole damn city." Holt didn't flinch. He didn't even blink. He just said, "We make them earn it." He raised his strobe, clipped it to his vest, and stepped forward. The horde surged, and we gave them hell. The boulevard was a living tide. We cut through it like a blade, but even the sharpest edge dulls when there's too much meat in the way. Holt led from the front, steady as bedrock. He didn't bark, didn't scream, just called the rhythm like a coach on the sideline. 2 rounds, shift, 2 rounds, move. Every command kept us alive another step. I fired until the rifle coughed smoke and heat bit through my gloves. Casings clinked off the asphalt and rolled under boots, slick with gore. Each trigger press snapped skulls into fountains, but for every one that fell, 3 more shouldered forward, hands grabbing, teeth clacking. Torres emptied a mag point blank into a woman whose jaw was gone. Her tongue slapped against her chest as the rounds tore her open. She still clawed at him until Ibarra split her head with the breacher axe. The impact sprayed us with bone shards. We moved toward Bravo LZ. The glow of flares burned faint orange above the seawall, strobing through the haze. A bird was supposed to be there, rotors thumping, rope lines dangling, salvation. Instead, the street was fire. A black hawk lay canted on its side in the open square. Rotor blades sheared clean off, tail snapped. Flames chewed through its hull. Figures clawed the wreckage, some in uniform, some not. Their screams mixed with the groans of the dead. Sacks dropped prone and started picking targets clean off the wreck. "Crew's alive, barely," he called. 3 pinned at the tail. Holt didn't hesitate. "Push." We drove forward, guns barking. I switched to controlled bursts, rounds hammering through heads like stakes. Blood misted the air so thick my NVGs flickered static. The crowd parted only when grenades tore them open. Ibarra's blasts lighting the night in orange and black. Limbs spun, guts slapped across walls. Still, the horde surged. We hit the wreck hard. Torres dragged a pilot out by the harness, his legs stripped to bone below the knee. The man screamed until Torres pressed a tourniquet tight and shoved him behind us. I covered the tail section. A door gunner clawed at the window, face streaked with soot and blood. The dead were crawling over the fuselage toward him. "Cover me!" I sprinted forward, rifle shouldered. 3 rounds, 3 heads burst. I yanked the gunner free. His arm dangled wrong, bone through skin, but he was breathing. By the time we hauled the last survivor out, the square was gone. Every street poured bodies into it. Dozens became hundreds. Hundreds became walls of flesh slamming into each other, climbing over cars, shoving against windows until glass shrieked. "They're boxing us in," Sachs shouted. His voice cracked for the first time all night. "Not yet," Holt said, calm as stone. He slapped 2 blocks of C4 onto the downed bird, primed them with the thumb. "Ibarra, fire lane east, now." Ibarra grinned, blood and soot smeared across his teeth. "With pleasure." We dragged the wounded toward the seawall stairs, backing into the open. When the crowd filled the square, Holt raised his fist. Click. The wreck became thunder. Fire chewed half the street, swallowing friend and foe. The blast rolled heat into our guts and hurled bodies skyward. Chunks rained down, hands, ribs, a head that spun twice before bouncing off the sea wall with a wet crack. The horde staggered. Those that lived clawed over flaming corpses, burning and biting at the same time. The pilot screamed. Torres shoved one onto his shoulder. Sachs took the other. We staggered down the seawall stairs, boots slipping in blood and ash. The ocean spread black and endless, but the sound behind us didn't stop, not one bit. From the stairs, I looked back. The horde was already filling the square again, charred, broken, burning, and still moving. They climbed each other's backs, building a wall of bodies that poured toward the sea. "They don't quit," Torres breathed, shaking his head. "They just don't fucking quit." "No," Holt said. His face was blank. "And this was just a wave." The words hit like the blast had, cold in my chest, because he was right. We hadn't seen the end. We'd seen the beginning. Above us, on the rooftops, more shadows gathered. Dozens, maybe hundreds. They crouched at the edge like gargoyles, swaying, waiting. And then one leapt. It didn't fall like a man. It lunged, hands out, mouth wide, a scream tearing the night open. We didn't run. We fell back. Seals don't run. At least, that's what I told myself as my boots pounded wet stone, blood and seawater splashing with every step. We hit the embassy compound 3 blocks inland, hauling the wounded pilots like sacks of sand. The gates hung open, chain link peeled back, guards long gone. The American flag outside hung half-burned, edges glowing like cigarette paper. Inside was worse, blood dragged in trails across marble tiles. Office chairs overturned, glass shattered into sugar on the floors. The lobby smelled like copper and piss, the air too thick to breathe deep. Someone had tried to barricade the main doors with desks. They'd been shoved aside like toys. "Upstairs," Holt ordered. His voice never changed. Didn't matter that the whole city wanted us dead. He still sounded like he was calling training drills. We moved fast. Torres and I set claymores on the stairwell, wires pulled taut across the banister, detonators clipped to our belts. Ibarra worked the entry hall, planting C4 along support beams and grinning like Christmas morning. Sax took rooftop. His rifle coughed through the night, skulls snapping back one after another in the streets below. Then we waited. It started as scratching, not hands, nails. Hundreds of them, raking the walls, the doors, the glass. The sound built until my teeth buzzed. Then came the pounding, fists, skulls, bodies slamming into the embassy walls like rams, the glass spider-webbed. "Hold," Holt whispered. The front doors blew inward under a tide of bodies. They flooded in, tripping over each other, mouths frothing, arms tearing at anything that moved. Eyes gone, throats shredded, some with half a torso but still crawling. Now, Torres thumbed the clacker. The stairwell lit up in sheets of fire. Claymores roared, steel balls turning the first wave into red mist. Flesh slapped the walls, chunks sliding down like paint. The next wave stumbled over the shredded remains, shrieking, clawing. We opened fire. My rifle barked until it steamed. Rounds punched skulls into geysers, faces bursting like overripe fruit. Blood sprayed the ceiling in fans. Ibarra was beside me with the axe, his grunts low and steady as he split heads down to the teeth. Torres kicked one off the banister, its skull exploding on the marble floor below. They kept coming. The embassy filled with smoke, screams, the stench of burning meat. I dropped mags, slammed fresh ones home. Headshots, headshots, headshots. But for every one that fell, 3 more clawed up. One burst through the side office window. Its jaw hung loose, tongue slapping against glass shards as it lunged at Torres. He tackled it, knife flashing. Blade drove up under the chin, out through the skull. Blood sprayed across his NVGs. He shoved the corpse aside and reloaded like nothing happened. By midnight, the ground floor was a slaughterhouse. Bodies stacked waist-high. Blood pooled down stairwells, thick enough to drag boots. The compound echoed with moans from the street. Thousands more waiting their turn. That's when I noticed Ibarra. He leaned against the wall, chest heaving, sweat slick on his face despite the cool night, his sleeve torn. Beneath it, teeth marks bloomed raw and red. He saw me looking, pulled the fabric down slow, shook his head once. "Not now," he muttered, but we both knew. Contact left. Sax shouted from the roof. His rifle snapped, head after head bursting in the street. Hundreds more inbound, east wall. Holt's jaw flexed, eyes flat. We hold this ground until dawn." I looked at Ibarra again. His hands shook on the axe handle. His breathing came shallow and fast. The pounding at the east wall grew louder. The glass there cracked, lines spidering wide. We weren't holding until dawn. We were drowning in it. The east wall buckled like a lung giving out. The windows gave way in a shriek of glass, and the dead came pouring through, their silhouettes black against the faintest smear of dawn. They didn't hesitate. They didn't think. They just swarmed. Holt barked, "Line!" and we formed tight, shoulder to shoulder on the second-floor landing. Our rifles hammered into them, skulls rupturing, gore splashing across the walls until the paint dripped crimson. Still they climbed over the bodies, hands clawing, jaws snapping. Ibarra stood at the top of the stairs, axe gripped white-knuckled. His sleeve was rolled up now, the bite plain as day, the veins already blackened. He didn't hide it. He didn't apologize. He just looked at us, grinned bloody teeth, and said, "Keep moving." Torres' face twisted. "Don't." "Shut it," Ibarra cut him off, voice steady. "You all get out. I'll hold." "No one gets left," Holt growled. Ibarra looked Holt dead in the eye. "I'm already gone. You know it. Make it mean something." Before any of us could stop him, he grabbed 2 blocks of C4 from his rig, ripped the safety pins out with his teeth, and shouldered through the stairwell door into the oncoming horde. The dead slammed into him instantly. Hands grabbed his arms, tore at his vest, teeth snapping inches from his face. He didn't fight to get free. He just drove the axe through skull after skull, carving them down as he pushed deeper into the mob. His laugh carried over the screams, loud, ragged, furious. "Go!" he roared. Holt didn't flinch. He didn't argue. He just turned and shoved us toward the rooftop. We dragged the wounded pilots, packs clattering, rifles barking behind us as we covered the retreat. The stairwell shook. A flash of light bloomed through the cracks. Then thunder. The explosion tore half the embassy away in a roar of fire and pulverized bone. The stairwell collapsed inward. The shrieks of the dead cut short in a single choking wail. Smoke and dust blasted through the halls, hot against our faces. The building groaned, but held. Silence followed, brief, jagged silence. Then only the crackle of flames and the distant, endless moan of the city. We made the roof, sacks set up along the parapet, rifles snapping heads off anything that dared show. Torres lit a flare, its red smoke curling into the sky. Holt planted the IR strobe, the beacon pulsing desperate Morse into the dawn. For a long moment, nothing, just the wind, the stink of charred meat, the hollow ringing in our ears. Then, faint, rotors. A Black Hawk appeared low over the ocean, banking hard, side gunners scanning the rooftops. It came in fast, angry, skids rattling as it hit the roof. We hauled the survivors aboard, then ourselves. The bird lifted, the city shrinking beneath us. Streets were clogged, rooftops crawling, thousands of bodies surging in every direction. Smoke curled from the embassy ruins, black against the rising sun. I looked back once. The pilot's voice crackled in our ears. "You boys look like hell." Holt didn't answer. None of us did. As the city shrank to a smear of fire and blood, all I could think was 12 hours. 12 hours to bury an entire city. And we weren't done. Not by a long shot, because Ibarra was right. We'd survived. But surviving wasn't winning. We were just alive enough to see what came next.